My name is Jake. Welcome to the channel. Today is Bring Your Wife to Work Day. It's been about 3 years since I've had her on the channel, so I'm really excited to see how this conversation goes. I didn't give her a lot of time to prepare for what we're about to talk about, so it's going to be authentic and maybe a little bit cringy at times, but hey, at least it'll be real. This week marks the 6-month anniversary of my wife quitting her job and joining me in financial independence. I wanted to bring her along today and talk about her experience with retiring early and answer some of your questions as well. So the goal of this video is to really just have a laid back and casual conversation about the realities of retiring early. So we jotted down about 5 topics of what we wanted to talk about. So we're going to talk about life before FIRE. We're going to talk about what her boss and coworkers thought when she said she was quitting. And then we're going to talk about the honeymoon phase of FIRE, and then how we managed our finances. We reached FIRE, what now? I put out a post on the channel this week asking what topics and questions you would all be most interested in for this video. And the majority of responses were around how we manage our finances. So the bulk of the conversation will likely be around that part. Ever since I made this YouTube channel back in 2019, I've tried the best I can to show what it's really like to pursue financial independence. I don't get everything right, but I've always been real with what I share with all of you. One of the things I really don't like about social media is how most people don't show how things really are. You only hear about people's wins and never about their struggles. And, well, I guess it could look a little like this.
The world is not in your books and maps. It's out there.
Oh my gosh. All right. So, welcome to the channel.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We tried to do the laugh, and it was too cringy. I had to cut it out. So we're going to cut that part out. Yeah. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. I actually asked her here earlier this week if she'd come on, and she said, yeah. Life before FIRE. Maybe you can take just a second and share, a little bit about yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm the Frau. I turned 39 this year. I'm from Germany. I think most of you know that. I immigrated to the United States in 2017, so I'm here since then. I worked in marketing. I had a corporate job for the last, 7 years or something. It feels a lot longer than that and also shorter. And and I quit in April, and it was the best day of my life. Almost. I have a son, so I mean, and I'm married, so there's an argument to be made.
Got to say that. Okay, so cool. So I guess one of the questions that somebody asked was, were you a natural saver before we met?
I was not. I was not. I was not very financial literate. I was, it was back in Germany. I was very used to not worrying too much about investing and how that all works. I was always brought up with the notion that the stock market is bad, that you can lose a lot of money. It's just not worth the risk. So I never put any thoughts into it. I always lived modestly, but I wouldn't say that I was a natural spender. It was more like my life circumstances.
Or natural saver.
Yes. What did I say?
Natural spender.
Oops. I was a natural spender, not a natural saver. So I had to learn that. I was always pretty frugal. Like I never had the need or the desire to spend a lot of money on clothes and stuff. But I had to learn how to be more frugal than I was before.
Yeah. And, before we were on this path to FIRE, we didn't really spend a lot of money. I was always more of a natural saver. And I got that more so from my mom, like living below my means. And, I never really had a lot of money, because I was going to school and working. minimum wage jobs during school. So I didn't really have a lot of money. So I didn't have the opportunity to spend. But the one thing that we didn't really do is really go into debt. Didn't have a lot of student loan debt, had, car debt to a natural amount.
I did. That was before I got financial literate.
And so another question that kind of ties into this is, what point did we decide that we wanted to go on the fire, join the fire movement or pursue fire? I kind of think about, for me, it was December 2018. We were on vacation and my job was just horrible. My boss sucked. The work was just stressful. And I knew that I couldn't do it forever. And then I think I was watching YouTube videos and just learning more about finance and investing. And, for me, I don't know if you remember this. I remember it, but I watched this fire video on YouTube. And it was this lady describing how her and her husband, I can't remember exactly who it was. I think her name was like Kristen or something. But, and she was in Idaho maybe? I can't remember. But she went with her husband on a walk and her husband asked her, at what point are you happiest? When are you happiest? And I did that with you.
You did that with me, yeah.
Yeah. And I asked you, when are you happiest? And not once did we ever talk about work.
No, it was always not working, like the exact opposite.
And that's when I think when we realized, okay, this is what we wanted to do.
Yes, I wanted to do it the moment I learned that it's an option. Like I didn't know it was an option before, and I didn't think it was realistic. But then once we did the math and saw other people do it, I was like looking at our life and our lifestyle, and we realized, yeah, we can do this. This is realistic for us. I was like, okay, I'm all in. Get me out of here.
and that's kind of how it felt like in the beginning. For me, like, a lot of people, they like their job. It was never the case for me,
Yeah, for me neither. I know people find fulfillment in jobs and maybe they find the right job. Maybe we have never found the right job for us, but it was never something that I prided myself in or fulfilled me or in any way. It was always like, okay, I need money and that's it.
Yeah. And I mean, it makes the world go round. I love it when people say they love their job because, somebody's got to work, I guess. But
to each their own.
Their own, yeah.
Great for them.
All right, now let's shift gears a little bit and let's talk about, the day that you quit. What did your boss and coworkers say when you said you were quitting?
So to my face, they were all very happy and excited for me. And I think my boss, she actually, when I told her, she didn't really seem all that surprised to an extent where I actually asked her about that. I was like, hey, you don't really seem surprised, because we had never really talked about, the future and in that sense. So I was kind of expecting to catch her out of the blue, but she was like, oh, okay, yeah, okay. And then I was like, you don't really seem surprised. Like, did you see anything coming? And I think she could tell that my heart wasn't in it anymore. Which is totally fair, totally true. And she was really happy for me. And, the coworkers that I told about it, they were happy too. I was more careful to say, I don't work anymore because I don't have to. As I phrased it with, I'm going to be a stay-at-home mom and do all that. And there were some comments like, oh, I wish I could do that. And it was, but everyone seemed to be like stoked, and yeah, that was really, really fun.
And you retired here this year in April?
Yes.
So what day do you remember?
Yeah. I had PTO a few days before, so I actually have to remember 2 dates. It was the 15th was my last, the 15th of April was my last work day. And I think April 19th was my first retired day, like the first day that I was officially unemployed, happily.
and willingly. So this week will be about the 6-month anniversary. So these last 6 months, you've really been in that honeymoon phase of fire, if that's a thing. You're in the honeymoon phase.
Yes.
How do you feel? Like, how are the first 6 months been?
I am just so happy. Every Monday, I still get a kick out of every Monday looking at my watch, at 8 a.m. or sometimes earlier, depending on when I wake up, and be like, oh, instead of sitting in a meeting now for the next 2 hours and talking about things that I should be excited about, but really am not, I get to spend time with my child. I get to make everyone breakfast. I get to We go on hikes a lot in the morning. I know we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but I get to decide what I'm doing. I don't have to be on my phone. I don't have to be on my laptop. And that alone is almost worth it. But, being the boss of my own time and just spending more time without being stressed, without feeling that I have to spread myself thin on things that I really enjoy. All my hobbies, I just do so much more of it than I used to, spend so much more time with my family outside. And it's just every day. Yeah, I've heard comments, "Oh, you look so much more relaxed now," and that's how I feel. So it's amazing.
And so a lot of highlights. When you think about it, it's not all been just rainbows and perfectly, everything working out perfectly. Can you think about some things that have maybe been more of a low light?
I do have to think about it because it's not immediately apparent. I thought I would miss, my coworkers more, or more I would miss this routine more, just talking with other people, I thought I would miss that more than I do. I almost don't, there's individuals that I miss, but, just in general. What I have noticed, and I know you had the same experience, is you get more frustrated, or you get frustrated more easily or annoyed. Because I feel like before there was the balance, you could be annoyed at your coworkers, you could be annoyed at your job, at your boss, you would vent to your coworkers and get all this bottled up frustration out on them or in your work. But now it's gone. So all your frustration and all the negative feelings that come up during the day, kind of funnel into your family. So there's more times when, when I'm more annoyed than I guess I used to be. But I heard it's normal, and once you kind of recognize that and find ways to not let it out on your family, it gets better.
It's funny she says that she heard it. I told her this because this exact same thing happened to me right after I quit or was no longer working my job. About a couple months in, I realized or recognized, man, why am I all so angry all the time? Why am I always so, not angry, angry is a little bit extreme. Why am I always so annoyed at little things? And it was because I didn't have any other outlet or any other person to let it out on. And it was just like, okay, you can breathe. And all these little things that maybe you push off or ignore, they get surfaced up, even though they're just small little things. And I remember talking to you about that, just like, why are you annoying me so much? And
what every wife loves to hear.
Yeah, perfect. And I told her that when she quit, I was like, I'm probably going to annoy you. So just remember that it's a thing. And don't get too mad at me.
Yeah, we also spend even more time together now than we did before. There's no me being in my office for hours. It's just us, we love spending time with each other. And so that goes really well in general, but you also notice the little things more than you probably did before.
Yeah, no, it's a real thing. So everybody out there, if you're thinking about retirement, just kind of, at least that was the case with both of us. Just understand that might be coming your way. So now let's shift gears and let's talk about the finances. So I consolidated like 10 or 12 questions of, what people wanted to know about this part. It's a finance YouTube channel. I talk about investing. So obviously,
oh, really?
Really, most people are going to be interested in the financial side of it. So let's talk about it. So looking at you, where you're no longer getting a paycheck every 2 weeks, how does that feel? Does that feel weird?
In the beginning, it did. I mean, we're 6 months in now, so I got used to it. But in the beginning, I was like, I like looking at my money. So if there was like a big chunk missing every 2 weeks, I'm like, this is kind of sad. Or, when I go out and spend some money, I was like, oh, that's not a big deal. I have new money coming in the next 2 weeks. Well, no, I don't. At least not in the same way I used to have it before. So it was a little weird in the beginning. But I do have monthly income from the dividends coming in. We just recently started options with my money as well. So there's money coming in. I just have to shift to the cadence and the size a little bit, even though I would, it all would get invested. So, the money I actually have, like fun money is what I call it, is pretty much the same, if not more than it was before. but it's weird not being reliant on it the way I was before.
Yeah, it's on the 15th or the last day of the month you're getting that money. It takes some time, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And so it makes it even more exciting when you get your dividends.
Yeah.
So another question that we got here was, how involved is your wife with the portfolio management decisions? Has that become an interest of hers? So when it comes to the portfolio management, I've always involved or tried to involve her when it comes to, the risk taking, the allocation, the direction, the strategy of the portfolio. Hey, we're investing in this ETF and, for this purpose, right? Has that
Yes.
sum it up?
Yeah. I would say I was always informed. I'm not educated enough to kind of help with the decision making. That part I'm still learning and like trying things out for myself and stuff, but I'm also not confident enough. So I leave that up to you. But you do a really good job informing me when you did something, especially if it's something bigger or, or if things didn't go so well, you feel that you can talk to me about it. And so I feel involved. Yeah.
Yeah. And when it comes to your interest, I think, if I can put words in your mouth, that your interest peaked when we opened up your brokerage a few years ago and you started investing your own money.
Yeah, that's right. The first brokerage, yeah, that's really when I always use the saying, that's when money became my friend. So I no longer feared it. I learned to use it better. I learned how to make it work for me. And that's when it became my friend. And I would say that has intensified over the years. And especially recently, now that I'm so reliant on it because I don't have a paycheck anymore.
Yeah. And we to kind of summarize how we did it for you is we had, I guess, 3 pies. We had an ETF pie, we had a growth pie, I guess, and more of a dividend pie, like dividend stock pie. And, you get to pick a few of your individual stocks, and that kind of got you mentally, emotionally invested into it, I guess.
Yes.
And now you mentioned options. So what are we doing with the options?
So yeah, we do options now. I do a terrible job of explaining, but we're buying puts, right?
Selling puts.
Selling puts, sorry. We're selling puts. Yeah, exactly. We're the insurance.
So we're selling puts, and I've talked a little bit about this on the channel. So I guess to back up just one step. So your source of income is you have your own individual brokerage account. And we'll talk about this in a second with Roth IRAs and stuff like that. But right now, what you're currently living off of, you have a portfolio. What's your portfolio at? Your taxable?
The amount?
Yeah.
It's about 140.
About 140,000. And that 140,000, about what is it producing on a monthly basis?
About 500.
About 500, 540,
something like that.
Something like that. So you're living off of that $500 a month that you're using for your fund money, for whatever it is.
On our kid, yeah, outings, experiences, and stuff like that.
So you're more on the fun side.
Yeah.
I'm more on like paying the bills, the utilities.
Yeah.
Okay. And so she has her dividend income, as well as this is just very recent, very new, is we're selling cash secured puts against her portfolio to also generate additional income.
Yes.
And so that's a little bit new, but I guess, to sum that up, that's a way that we've been able to, in a responsible way, generate about $300 or $400 more a month.
Yes.
So, but that's kind of TBD. It depends on how it goes going forward, but projected, that's kind of our goal is, to generate a little bit more income for her. So that's a little bit on that piece. And some of these questions kind of connect and are correlated, but taking a look at the next one. So do we get stressed or anxious about our income?
I do a little bit, not as much as I thought I would. That was a big part where I was like, once the paycheck is gone, will it feel like a free fall? And we're just hoping that there's, like someone to catch us. But no, it's not that bad, but it's on the back of my mind. Like we just recently had this conversation, of a lot of companies going private. It's like, okay, will there be enough companies to sustain this in the future? Are we looking at a shrinking market? Stuff like that when it comes up in the media, I guess, or in the news. But, I don't lose sleep over it at least. What about you?
No, I don't. And what about like dividend cuts? Do you worry about dividend cuts?
No, also not really.
No, really? I do a little bit. These last couple of years have been, a little bit, right? I'm worried more about the slowing growth than dividend cuts. You look at dividend stocks these last 3 years, they've pretty much underperformed the S&P 500 as an example. SEHD, DJRO, the dividend growth rate has been a little bit slower. So that does make me pause a little bit, but I wouldn't say I lose sleep over it. And, another question that ties into this here that this person asks is how we manage risk. And so how would you say, do you manage your risk? Like, what do you think about
Yes. Still prioritize savings accounts to make sure that there's enough in there if, something happened to help us, be okay for X amount of time. The spending is still, I don't spend like my money every month I don't live paycheck to paycheck in that sense, even though it's not a paycheck anymore. So yeah, I would say I prioritize my savings and make sure that there's always enough in there and that I keep that growing. And yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah, emergency fund. And, because our portfolio is primarily in dividend stocks, they're inherently more defensive. So you don't have as much of the boom or bust. With the options, we do sell cash secure puts on margin. And I just use a very conservative balance in terms of how much I'm using at one given time. And with hers, because we're doing cash secure puts on hers, we don't go above, not more than 50%. I think it's like 30 or 40% of your current balance. So we try to manage it that way. But when it comes to, how often do we think about our portfolio in retirement?
That's a good question. I think about it every day because I like looking at it.
So every day?
Yeah. Yeah, but not like strategically. I don't think about it like, oh, could I optimize it? Could I do it better? Could I do it different ways? I don't think about it that way. I just like looking at it.
Yeah. I think with SEHD, DJRO, and JEPQ, I never really look at those. I do sell cash secure puts, and that is a little bit more active, and it's a pretty sizable amount of our income, and it doesn't take a lot of time, but it takes a lot of, I like to follow up on it, right? And it is a hobby of mine. So another question that we got was on our HSA, our health savings account. So how we manage that. So with work, while we were working, had our employer-sponsored HSA. Once we quit, we transferred over our HSA from our employer over to Fidelity, and we just invest into the stock market with it, right?
Yes, set it and forget it.
Yeah, we just kind of treat it like a Roth IRA. Though I do have, I think what my goal is with next year's contributions, because we have a high deductible healthcare plan, and so when we contribute to our HSA, I want to have about 1 year's out-of-pocket maximum for the health expenses, not the premiums, the expenses should we have to go to the hospital or have something done or if something happens. I want to have that cushion, kind of like a safety net. And so that's what I'm building up now over the next year, so that we can increase it. Otherwise, it's just all in VTI, total US stock market.
And we don't plan on using it until actual retirement age. So if we go to hospital now or anything, we usually pay it out of pocket and don't touch the HSA even.
Yeah, that's the goal. I mean, because when we plan our budget, and I'll talk about that here in a second, when we plan our budget, it's included the maximum with the healthcare costs. Ooh, this is a fun question. So how do we manage our accounts? So do you have separate accounts? Do you have individual accounts? How does that all work?
Well, I would say, with the exception of maybe one, all of our finances are separate. But, I have a credit card to your account, as it should be. No, I'm joking. I like to spend all your money. No, but like, even though having separate accounts, we are super transparent. Like, you look at mine all the time. I look at yours all the time. We talk about it. We say how much there is in each account. So even though they're separate, they're not separate in mind. They're just separate on paper, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's well said. And we have in total 6 accounts. We have 3 of the same accounts. So I have a taxable, she has a taxable. I have a Roth IRA, you have a Roth IRA. Here this next year, we're going to convert your IRA, your traditional IRA, into a Roth IRA, right? So what's left in it. So, And then we each have an HSA from our employers. So we have 6 accounts in total. My account, so with my taxable brokerage account, right now I'm paying for the mortgage, the rent, the utilities, internet, all, healthcare. Most things are coming out of my account. And when it comes to like when we ever go to like a museum or something fun, she'll usually spot the bill and
Yes.
pay for that. But we do have separate accounts, and but yeah, we see what's going on with both.
Oh,
of them.
absolutely. Yeah.
Another question is, do we own gold or Bitcoin? And thoughts on the devaluation of the dollar? Now that's a deep question.
Very deep.
Okay, so gold and Bitcoin, pretty
No.
easy. We don't own any gold or Bitcoin. I mean, woulda, shoulda, coulda. I wish I would have owned it, but no, we invest our money primarily into assets that produce an income, right? Like, dividend stocks, companies that pay a dividend that we don't have to sell the actual asset to produce income. So that's more of our strategy. In terms of the devaluation of the dollar, a lot of the companies that we invest in, they're going to grow as the money supply increases. So you think about, like, for example, Home Depot or Procter & Gamble or Walmart. A lot of these companies are in the dividend funds that we own. Those companies are going to benefit from, the printing of money, right? So you can hedge yourself against those uncertainties by owning strong businesses and, ETFs that are, that screen companies for different metrics that are important to you. So that's how I view it. If somebody wants, I've thought about owning Bitcoin or gold, but I thought to myself, at this point in time, our resources are limited. I'd rather have all of our money invested in, cash producing assets.
Yeah, same. I was tempted by Bitcoin, but I'm also, and this is just me, so don't take that at face value, but I feel like for me it's too late. Bitcoin is so high up now. Like you said, you should have done it maybe 5 years ago. At this point, I'm like, I gotta rather put my money into something else.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. And so another question here is, did we pay off our mortgage before reaching FIRE?
No, we did not.
And so why didn't we do that?
Because we have a great interest rate.
Yeah, we did the math and the numbers worked with having our mortgage. We have a sub 3% mortgage. So it's, for us, it's fine. It's basically, it's fine. But one thing that and let me ask you this, are we planning on keeping the house? No. So we're planning on selling our house in Austin and moving up to Utah full time. And so we don't need the house in Austin. And right now in Utah, we're renting. And so, we're going to invest all of that into the stock market. And we plan on owning again here in Utah in the future. But for now, I think we're happy just where we're at.
Very happy.
All right. The next question, maybe we'll put you on the spot a little bit here. What is your current portfolio allocation in your taxable account?
You mean in terms of ETFs and individual stocks?
Yeah, like what are your largest positions?
SHD is my largest.
What else?
JEPI, JEPQ. And then as we go into the individual stocks, the amount gets lower and lower. I have a few shares in individual companies like Sony, Honeywell, NextEra Energy, Amazon, Microsoft, McDonald's, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I just recently, spent a little bit in Duolingo. FC Unlimited, Roblox. That's like just for fun. It's just a small percentage of my portfolio.
Mm-hmm. And you got realty income as well?
Yes, I do.
And you got, what else do you got? You got DGRW as well?
Yes, I do.
And so something that I've tried to do with her is, you'll probably notice a trend at, JEPI, JEPQ, DGRW, realty income. These pay monthly. And so I really wanted to focus on making sure that she had monthly income and, including, SEHD, as well.
Yes.
Right. So what about your Roth IRA? What do you got in there?
That's just in the overall stock market, I believe.
So just VTI?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I think so.
So just VTI. So you're investing more into growth for your Roth and dividend growth in your
Which makes sense because I'm not going to touch the Roth IRA for a long time. So, it's time to grow.
Yeah, you understand how to invest based off your investment time horizon.
There you go. Someone's listening to the channel.
Nice. And with my portfolio, I got SEHD, DJRO, I got JEPQ. I'm looking to get out of JEPI and more into JEPQ, I think, is probably what I'm going to do. If the market keeps going down, my goal is to hopefully, I always say don't time the market, but I have it. If the market were to drop 20%, I would rebalance out of JEPI and into JEPQ. But maybe it's just wishful thinking, but that's what I'm hoping to do. And in my Roth IRA, I own VTI at 40%, VGT at 40%, VXUS at 10%, and VNQ at 10%. So all in ETFs in our retirement accounts. So somebody wants to know, what are our current expenses? So what are your expenses? What do you generally pay? What do you spend money on a monthly basis?
Oh, yeah. Well, I have the fun part of it all. Like you mentioned, I spend it on clothes, toys for the kid, toys for me, meaning video games and stuff. Food, goes mostly into what you're paying for. So that's basically just mine. It's just for fun.
Fun stuff. And do you know what we pay in a month?
Yeah, we pay $8,500 right now.
At least that's what's budgeted. We generally pay less, but that's what our budget is if we were to have our out-of-pocket maximum for healthcare, right? So it's always that question, so we always plan with worst case. Realistically, it's probably around $7,500, give or take, maybe a little bit less. And with the house, our budgeted expenses are $8,500 a month. When we sell the house in Austin, our budgeted expenses will be just under probably about $6,000. And if we don't have our healthcare expenses, it'll probably be around $5,000. So we live fairly modestly. We don't, I think the majority of what we spend our money on is we try to do one expensive is relative. We try to do one nice vacation a year. And I think that's really what we're spending our money.
Yeah. I mean, they're expensive because we are doing it so much. Long.
So long. Well, because we're doing the slow travel and stuff, which we'll get to here in just a second. But I think what we spend the majority of our money on, and we've gotten better at this, is it used to be food, right? It used to be eating out. We'd be on rotation, Five Guys, Chick-fil-A.
We still are.
We still are, but less, right? Like we've cut back dramatically. Like I remember going to Costco and just be like, I spent our month's budget this week. So sorry.
Oops.
And so it's like, well, what do you do? And so we've done a lot better this year.
Yes. Yeah, I feel so too. Even though we put a little bit more focus on health and like organic, healthy food, like whole foods that we then cook ourselves and stuff, you would think it's more expensive, but for some reason it feels like we're still spending less. We've cut down on snacks significantly, and so I think that makes a big impact too.
I probably saved $200 or $300 on snacks a month.
It feels like it. Yeah.
It feels like it because every snack you buy at Costco is like $10
at least.
At least one item, $10, $15, and like a lot of them, they're like, no, it's just. I could go on for this forever. Like just you pick up the box and it's like air.
Empty. Half empty.
It's like half empty and it's like, this was $29.99 for what?
Now with 50% more air.
Yeah. And so it's like, yeah, we've cut back on that. I think our food budget has gone down quite a bit. Our activity budget, I mean, we go hiking and in the summer we haven't done a lot.
No, we haven't done a lot of expensive stuff or stuff that costs anything. Like we go hiking a lot. We go out to the library, which is free. What I did spend money on is year passes for, like for children's activities. Like we have a children's museum here or the dinosaur park or stuff like that. So I get year passes for that. So that's a one-time upfront cost. So I don't spend anything on that on a monthly basis. We get like shopping. I do thrifting a lot. So that's pretty cheap. Yeah.
And you do that by choice, right? You don't have to do that.
No, I don't. I want to do that. You know how one of the happiest things is when I come home with a big bag of stuff and like, look what I got for $20, and it's like 30 things in there. Well, it's a little bit overestimated, but that's fun.
Okay, and so the last question here is, how do we handle health insurance? We talked a little bit about this. We've weighed our options when it comes to private health insurance, religious health insurance, marketplace insurance, just like what are the options? What's available, right? Like what are the things that you could consider? And what we decided on was, we're still pretty young. We're fairly healthy for the most part. And, we decided to go with just regular marketplace insurance. It's expensive. It's the most expensive option, but there's one reason why we did it. And for me, here in the United States, it's our bankruptcy insurance. That's all it is.
Yes.
Like, we try to go out of our way to not go to the doctor. I use like GoodRx coupons and stuff like that to not even use our high deductible because I don't want to, meet our high deductible for the year. And so for us, it's just purely bankruptcy insurance, and it's an expense line item here in the United States, and it's just how it is.
Yes.
It's one of the reasons why I wanted to move to Europe or, somewhere, Panama or something where, I did this was back in 2020 or 2021. I was like, hey, if we quit tomorrow, we sold the house, we can move to Panama and never work again.
I remember that.
And I was like,
I was tempted.
I was so tempted, but then the problem with that decision is there's kind of no going back, right?
Yeah.
You'd have to go and get another job if you would ever
Exactly.
change your mind.
Yes.
And so I wasn't ready to have, no going back. But that's on the healthcare. When I was, before we reached FIRE, that was my number one concern, especially here in the United States. And so I wanted to make sure that I touched on that because I always had that question for other people.
Yeah, you talked about it all the time. When we talked about FIRE, it was always like, okay, the health insurance, we got to figure that part out. It's complicated. I have to do research. It was always a big headache. I remember that.
Yeah, it's not much easier. The only thing that's easier now is I've just mentally accepted that this is a monthly annual expense that we can't get around. And that's it.
And once you phrase it as bankruptcy insurance, I think that shifted too, because that's what it is. And then you could handle the high cost better than before, I feel like.
And it comes back into like that risk management that people were asking as well, is like, well, this is our risk management. The biggest risk that we have is we have our out-of-pocket maximum. Sure, we could probably skid by on other options, but no, this was the right choice for us.
And since we have a child, we don't have to worry if he breaks his leg or something. We know we're going to be fine this way. And it's worth the peace of mind. Yeah,
the peace of mind, for sure. Okay, so let's talk about the last thing here, shifting gears. We reached FIRE. So I reached Barista FIRE in 2023. You reached regular FIRE here in 2025. So now what?
Now what? We do more of what we love. I know you've said that before too. For me, I just do a whole lot more of what I love. I play a lot more video games now. I actually can't finish something. I've picked up, I was always interested in like little crafty things and puzzling and, like all that stuff that you can do in front of the TV. I do a lot more of that. I should not mention this third. I should mention this first, but I'm spending a lot more time with my child. Priorities.
Yep.
I've picked up cooking, so that's not new. I was always kind of interested in that, but I never made the space in my life, time-wise, for cooking. I changed that now, so now I learned a few new cool things that I didn't know I could pull off before, so that gives me a lot of happiness and satisfaction, especially if my family then actually eats it and likes it. More of what we love.
Yeah, and I think what I would add to that is I remember back when I was trying to pursue FIRE, and I was always on the go. I was always traveling for work. I was always dialed in. And for me, it was always wanting a slower pace of life and not having to always be on the go.
Yes. Or always be on the clock. I'm like, oh, in 1 week is this thing, or I got to go travel in like 2 weeks for this thing, or I have a deadline coming up, all these time-related things that are just gone now.
Oh, it's funny that you mentioned that because before I would live out of my calendar, and now I can't even remember the last time I looked at my calendar.
You don't even look at the one at the fridge.
I don't. I always. Yeah. What are we doing this weekend? What are we doing?
It's on the fridge. Look at the fridge.
But yeah, like I don't. Yes, and living life on our terms, and I just do a heck of a lot more of what I'd like to do. I go hiking more. I love playing video games. I love watching YouTube. I love going and doing stuff. I think this year has been really about, balancing our time in the mornings, at least here in the summer. we've always got up and gone and done something. We went hiking, we went biking, go do something. And then in the afternoon, we just come back home and just relax, right? It's like, at work, when you go to lunch and then you come back and you got to go work for another 5 or 6 hours. Yeah. Now it's like, okay.
I get game the rest of the day.
You do whatever I want.
I do want to touch on something that you mentioned. I could imagine that for some people that are so used to the routine and that suddenly there's no routine anymore and you can basically do whatever you want. We did change that this year. So we have an established routine. So we know every day what's happening, when it's family day, when it's, boys day, when it's mommy and child day. So we have, our days have themes now, I want to say that, and a certain structure. So, that kind of helps us to not, we know what we get up for in the morning. It's not that we, wake up in the morning, it's like, I don't know what to do. There's nothing. Like we have this loose structure that kind of helps us, not waste the time away, I would say. Yeah,
last year was not very healthy. So last year I was having a little bit of difficulty with sleeping, and I would go to bed really late, like 2 or 3 in the morning. And it's because when I was working, I always dreamt of that. And when I was a kid, I play video games or stuff until like 2 or 3 in the morning. And now I'm getting older. It's just like, can't do it. I just can't do it anymore. And so we have a set routine when we go to bed and when we wake up. Now, some of you might think that sounds horrible, but
so did I at first. I hated the idea.
Yeah.
And then we started doing it and now we're happy.
It's just a lot more fulfilling. It's healthier. When I wake up at 11 or 12 o'clock in the afternoon, it's like half the day's gone.
Yeah.
Right. And now we get back from hiking for an hour and a half and it's not even 12 o'clock.
Exactly.
Right. And and then I don't feel guilty about being lazy in the afternoon. And so, obviously everybody's got their own hobbies and some people love different things. But for us, like that's,
yes.
Yeah. Our happy place, I guess. I don't know. You just find your happy place, something that works for you. What are some of our plans going forward outside of YouTube?
Travel. We have the next 2 years planned in terms of travel. For me, it's recipes. I have recipes planned. Like things like that. Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah, puzzle. So outside of YouTube. So I guess let's double click on the travel. What are we going to do next year?
Next year, we're going to do a big road trip to the US. We've both never been really to the East Coast and stuff. So we're going to take our little car and drive all around there and then back to Utah with a big giant loop, a little bit of a detour. We're going to see Kentucky and Maine and Connecticut and,
Pennsylvania, everything.
Yeah, everything in that direction over there.
How long are we going to do it for?
2 months?
About 2 months?
Yeah.
A 2-month road trip. That was something that I always wanted to do, never had the time or money. And now we have the time, and because we have the time, we can be flexible on when we do it. So we can go on the shoulder season. So we don't have to pay $300 a night for a hotel. We can use points and pay $70, $60.
Yeah.
Right? So we can actually make it work.
Yes.
And little activities. We're going to go on little trains in New England, on a train ride. And
going to go on a horseback ride in Montana. No, wait, Wyoming.
Wyoming, yeah.
Yeah.
Outside of Jackson, because we're going to go to the poor man's Jackson. We're going to go to outside of Jackson. But
we're not that independent financially.
Remember, I'm still barista fire, right? But what else are we doing? So what about the year after?
Oh, I'm excited for that one. I'm also scared. So we're going to travel to Australia. Maybe we start in Thailand and Bali, and then go to Australia. I'm very excited about Australia, but also very scared of the spiders. Like every time you hear about Australia, there's always a spider involved, and I'm sure it's not that bad. But then the coolest part, almost everything is cool about that. But on the way back, instead of flying, we take a cruise back from Australia to Hawaii. Gonna hang in Hawaii for a week, and that's gonna be amazing. I love the first cruise that we did. That was so much fun and so relaxing and just overall amazing for me, at least. And I'm so excited to do it again.
Yeah, the cruise, I think it was perfect for us, right? We could go. Yes. What did you like about the cruise? That's not something we talked about, but how did you like the, we're already thinking about 2 years into the future. How about this year? How was the cruise? How was the trip for you?
Oh, I loved it. Well, yeah, I think my favorite part was the cruise. I mean, there were highlights in Germany too. I am from Germany, so obviously that was, coming home, seeing all my friends, my family, some experiences I hadn't done in a while, seeing places I hadn't seen in years. So that was a lot of fun. But I think my highlight was the cruise. First off, I'd never done it before. So just this whole experience, seeing this giant ship and like, you always hear the talks of like, oh yeah, they're swimming cities, but actually seeing it for yourself. And then what I like is that you have everything taken care of. You don't have a worry in the world, There's always food available, There's always something to do, something to see. I love the water, so just staring at the water, I could even do that for just an hour straight and not get bored. There was fun stuff to do for Lucas. They had like lectures on board, and you could listen to like scientific stuff, which was interesting. And then the shows at night, and the food would get repetitive after a while, but I have a less sensitive stomach, so I can just eat whatever, and so I did. And it was a lot of fun, and I can't wait for the next one.
Yeah, it was fun. I think towards the end, sleeping was a little bit hard with the boat just constantly shaking, and that was kind of but the excursions going to the Azores and everything, that was really, really cool.
But I even liked the ship days, the ocean days a little, or sea days, how they call it, I think, almost the most, because you had a good excuse to not do anything really, because you couldn't. So I love that.
I'm sure some people that would be absolutely horrible, but
yeah.
But yeah, and the thing that I liked about it so much was it was affordable, right? We got 2 weeks of food and travel and everything, and it was almost the exact same cost of flying one way from Germany to the US to Germany. And we got it was cool.
Yeah, that was the craziest part. Like for the same price, you get 2 weeks of being pampered. I loved it.
All right, so that was your first 6 months.
Yeah. On to the next.
On to the next 6 months. Well, cool. Well, yeah. So I guess we'll wrap it there. And maybe we have you come back in the future.
I would love that.
Maybe before the next 3 years.
Oh, yeah. We could do that.
All righty, cool.
See you around.
See you around.
Please subscribe. Subscribe. Please subscribe.
You know what? I think we're gonna be friends. Can everyone say hi to my friend? That's crazy. I just wanted to say thanks. I'm glad you came along, partner.